Since the U.S. retaking of northern Fallujah a year ago, various extremist organizations have attempted to seize the city from the DoD and local Iraqi forces. The majority have been unsuccessful until 3 months ago, when a large insurgent force composed of over 1,500 armed militants overran the predominantly Iraqi-held district of Naz al-Fari. With the large marine presence slowly decreased to a mere 300 over the last 2 years, U.S. forces are spread thin to the north and unable to assist the Iraqi forces with the large number of insurgents. The Iraqis may not be prepared for a full U.S. withdrawal. Quote, "As soon as we leave, I'm afraid that the insurgents will take over. They watch us as we watch them." End quote. Major General Jim Mattis. That was the setup for TCG's fictionalized take on Operation Iraqi Freedom circa 2006. Things kicked off with a rescue mission. 2nd Platoon got word that an Army convoy had been ambushed near Fallujah and that PFC Jessica Ramirez had been captured by insurgents. They were tasked with rolling out and securing the convoy and rescuing the captured soldier. After locating and extracting her from the nearby hospital, 2nd Platoon pushed across the old bridge to root out the insurgents responsible for the attack. Their hardpoint met fierce resistance, however, and eventually they fell back across the bridge. In the meantime, PFC Ramirez, back in safe hands, reported overhearing her captors talking about disrupting the upcoming elections by destroying the polling centers. The next day, 1st Platoon provided security to U.S.-supported elections to the south of Fallujah. They set up checkpoints around the polling center, inspecting vehicles and locals for weapons and explosives before they could enter. However, a sudden explosion leveled the mosque across the street, derailing the process. Insurgents attacked the area and were beaten back by 1st Platoon. The campaign's primary HVT, Zarqawi, claimed responsibility for the attack. Afterwards, 1st redeployed to raid a safe house in the northern industrial district to look for the bomb maker. While they didn't find the HVT, they did find intel as to his identity. Quote, "the Canadian, aka Abu Abdul Rahman." Second Platoon raids Fallujah once again in search of the bomb maker, clearing an apartment complex and securing an enemy weapons cache. They don't find the bomb maker, but they do capture 2 enemy combatants who indicate that the HVT has fled the area. Following up on the intel that 2nd Platoon secured, 1st Platoon goes in search of the Canadian, clearing IEDs along a major highway as they hunt for their target. However, they get pinned down in a mosque and have to hold it against concentrated attack. Rahman eludes capture once again. Phalanx receives word that ISIS has joined the cause and pledged allegiance to al-Qaeda. As their first act, ISIS has captured a nearby airfield, expelling friendly Iraqi forces from the facility. A flight of Chinooks paradrops 2nd Platoon in the nearby hills, and they push south, clearing the nearby towns and encampments. After 2nd starts taking heavy indirect fire from a ridgeline south of the airfield, Cav clears the contacts, allowing 2nd to push and clear the objective. In the process, they find intel that points to the location of the Canadian. The next day, 1st Platoon conducts a halo jump raid to finally capture the bomb maker. After clearing contacts from their LZ, they raid the nearby towns of Sharkurkale and Chaman to try and finally capture their target. However, at some point, 1-4, while providing overwatch, spots and kills the HVT, mistaking him for an enemy combatant. The 9th was a special event for Phalanx Platoon. A few days after the anniversary of D-Day, 2nd Platoon is reassigned to the aid of Kuwaiti forces, conducting a beach landing of a small island off the coast. 2nd clears enemy encampments from the beach and pushes inland to finally root out the militant forces. Meanwhile, 1st Platoon conducts a raid on an insurgent training camp run by our next HVT, Omar Youssef. However, they soon get word of a counterattack against their own airfield and must scramble back to defend their base. After getting the saltwater smell out of their boots, 2nd Platoon returns to the desert and is tasked with clearing the nearby oil pipeline and handling center of enemy combatants, as well as removing any IEDs that could sabotage the infrastructure. As they secure the main processing plant, they discover a grisly scene. The civilians previously manning this facility have all been killed by the enemy combatants. The platoon moves out, but massive dust storms spring up, largely blinding the soldiers as they attempt to patrol the pipeline and the oil derricks. Some IEDs do detonate, damaging the oil infrastructure and destabilizing the region. 2nd Platoon also suffers significant casualties this day. Meanwhile, having learned the location of Omar Youssef, 1st Platoon conducts a raid to capture him and his brother, who are serving as military advisors in caliphates, training local insurgents to resist coalition forces. Despite taking heavy losses, 1st Platoon manages to clear an entire region of ISIS fighters. However, their mission to capture Youssef and his brother fails, instead ending with the HVTs being killed. While unfortunate, their removal does weaken paramilitary forces in the area. At the same time, a large IED storage facility is identified before it detonates. The reason for the detonation is unclear. The campaign ends up bringing phalanx very near the Syrian border, causing the platoon to adjust their operations to provide deniability. The soldiers adopt local garb over their kits to allow some ability to blend in with the local militias. The campaign's next HVT, Al-Masri, has been located in a nearby town, and 2nd Platoon is sent to set up surveillance points to locate and eventually capture him. Al-Masri attempts to flee to a nearby airfield to escape phalanx. 2nd is forced to pursue and clears the airfield of insurgent militia. They manage to capture the HVT and extract him. Afterwards, 2nd Platoon learns of a camp out in the desert holding political prisoners. After inserting by helo on the surrounding mountaintops, they successfully clear the camp of enemy combatants and rescue all 7 prisoners. 1st Platoon soon learns of another political prisoner camp across the border in Syria. They raid the camp and rescue the prisoners. Additionally, they find a weapons manifest from our campaign's next HVT, Shakur.
Very aware.
This is bigger than yesterday. So much bigger.
Intel reports that a CIA asset known as Agent Smith has not checked in after their scheduled 24-hour report. 2nd Platoon conducts a search and rescue of the agent's last known location, eventually locating the safe house. Intel is delivered showing Agent Smith being tortured for information. 2nd Platoon raids the location where the agent is being held, but the agent is strapped with explosives. Agent Smith was killed during the raid.
Mom, get back!
Meanwhile, 1st Platoon is tasked with protecting a mosque in the middle of Zarqawi. HVT Shakur leads an insurgent assault on the position, but is killed in the attack, identified by his gold AK-47. While 1st Platoon is victorious, the mosque sustains heavy damage. While conducting an assault on an enemy combatant-held facility, 2nd Platoon finds murdered civilians, apparently at the hands of the next HVT, the Butcher. They also find civilian corpses with C4 implanted in their chest cavities and large caches of weapons and explosives. Following up on intel from the facility, 2nd Platoon raids a nearby town for explosives and weapons stockpiled by the Butcher. Meanwhile, 1st Platoon continues to clear insurgents and weapons from the area, clearing the towns of Al-Zahra and Al-Shaliya. Word comes in that an Iraqi forces helicopter has been shot down in the Galugina province, and 2nd Platoon is sent out to recover the crew and passengers. They insert via riverboat and assault the town where the helo went down. As they push into enemy-held territory, they locate the downed helo and 2 of the crew's bodies. They continue their assault across the river and eventually recover the rest of the Iraqi crew and passengers. In the process, they eliminate a significant number of enemy insurgents, bringing greater stability to the region. In the real world, 1st Platoon has recently learned that their commander, Lieutenant J. Busby, would be stepping down. In honor of him, they unofficially repeat the previous night's mission, but this time donning Marine uniforms and equipment. Despite heavy resistance, machine gun emplacements, and enemy armor, the platoon manages to recover all 5 of the missing soldiers. While the area west of the Diallo River is still a hotbed of enemy activity, Command believes their forces to be strained from the heavy losses inflicted during the previous operations. Capitalizing on this, 2nd Platoon successfully assaults and clears the enemy-held airfield to the west, as well as the surrounding area. They manage to interrupt an arms deal taking place just as the assault begins. In the process, HVT Ferris is killed by Ronan, Phalanx's recon element. 2nd Platoon also finds and secures large caches of heavy weapons and vehicles. However, during the later stages of the operation, local freedom fighters attempt to join the assault on the side of the Americans. In the confusion, some are killed by blue-on-blue fire, and the freedom fighters turned hostile. As the enemy falls back from this defeat, 1st Platoon pushes ahead and clears several towns. In the process, they find and eliminate another campaign HVT known as the Chechen, a sniper who's been picking off friendly forces for some time. Additionally, 1st Platoon locates and defuses a large IED staging location, reinvigorating pro-US sentiment in the region. Intel suggests the enemy in the area have somehow acquired heavy armored vehicles, including Iranian T-72 tanks. 1st Platoon goes on the hunt. Over the course of the operation, they managed to eliminate 3 of the heavy tanks. They also managed to capture an ISIL commander, Al-Qadir Lazeri. Second Platoon is tasked with clearing a nearby oil refinery of enemy combatants, and is warned that the remaining T-72s may be in the area. Phalanx manages to capture the refinery and destroys multiple enemy tanks in the process. However, what was then supposed to be a light presence patrol through the surrounding town turned into a full-on battle as the enemy launched a heavy counterattack. During the fight, 2nd also received a distress call from the local Iraqi forces, who had also come under heavy attack at a nearby mosque. Phalanx scrambles to provide aid, pushing through the hostile town. However, somewhere during the fight, the oil refinery goes up in flames. The next day, 1st Platoon goes on patrol through the northern region. They take heavy contact, but manage to eliminate over 400 enemy combatants, accelerating the close to the campaign. In an attempt to repair relations with the local freedom fighters, 2nd Platoon is tasked with escorting Major Hagar and patrolling through the local region, meeting with the fighters and gathering intel on the final HVT of the campaign, Zarqawi. Despite multiple ambushes and heavy contact, they complete their patrol and learn of Zarqawi's location from the local freedom fighters' leader, Abdullah Iraqi. In the campaign finale, 1st Platoon conducts a halo jump near Zarqawi's reported location and closes in. They assault an enemy encampment, but he's not there. Intel points them to a nearby town, and Phalanx rapidly redeploys to encircle the area. After a final assault, Zarqawi is reported KIA. The campaign began on May 30th, 2020, and ran 4 ops per week through July 12th, totaling in 26 two-hour ops in less than a month and a half. Everyone was excited about our trip back in time. Well, except for some of the real mill guys. Apparently they really hate those UCP uniforms. Coming up next, Phalanx is coming back to the present day to face off against the Russians in Crimea. After 2 campaigns against insurgents and irregular forces, it's going to be quite a change going up against a near-peer opponent once again. We'll be facing much more heavily armed and armored opponents, a greater number of armored vehicles, and an opposing air force. I, for one, can't wait. Until then, this has been Annuncia with TCG's 75th Ranger Regiment.